I'm Arden 13.
Welcome to our show, World Tiger.
Building Dragon.
Today we are continuing with another one of World Anvil's summer camp prompts.
Summer camp is a program set up by the World Anvil team to promote world building as well as the community in general.
There'll be a total of 33 prompts all throughout the month of July, so if you're looking to win some prizes for your submissions, don't miss out.
World Anvil is a free in-browser tool that has everything that a world builder, a GM, or maybe even a writer would ever need.
They also have some really incredible subscription options, so make sure to check those out as well.
Totally worth it and affordable. If you're interested, please consider checking them out. But in any case, let's get to this prompt. What is our prompt?
Today we get to write about a settlement that was almost brought to ruin but then brought back.
I know exactly what I'm writing
I
about.
have no idea.
Well, this is one of those rare instances in this entire project where I know what I'm doing and you don't.
I'm still excited, but it's gonna be a challenge this time around. We'll find out.
Fine. But for all of you who may not know what Kat and I are doing and have been doing for the past month, welcome to planet Earth. Things are weird here, but we have given ourselves some parameters to complete World Anvil's summer camp project. Those parameters being, each of us has 30 minutes to answer the prompt.
Each of our submissions have to be at minimum 300 words.
At the end of our 300 words and our 30 minutes that have expired, we will come back together and share what we came up with.
Some of our best ideas have come from collaborations.
That they have. Are you ready?
Yes.
Let's do this.
Time skip!
And we're back.
We're back!
Did you get it?
I got something, probably not as detailed out as yours. It'll be a lot of vague, and then this kind of happened references, but
Sure.
I'm really excited to see what you came up with. So,
Okay.
why don't we
Well,
start?
I'm not starting.
Yeah, why don't we start with mine, and then we'll move on to whatever grand city you came up with. So,
Okay.
so I, originally when I created Theatrum, my voice is gonna keep doing this. There we go. So, originally when I created Theatrum, I had wanted this idea of a city that was incredibly divided between three nations. So, those three nations being Fuglen, Sondomanel, and Halar. So, Fuglen being gnomes and halflings, Sondomanel being knowledge, smartsy people, and then Halar mostly being dwarves and humans. So, Dele was a city that was built on, originally it was two corners of two countries, and then it became three. So, how it got destroyed, we can start with that, is that Dele is known for being one of the greatest port cities on the southern side of Theatrum. Lots of commerce in and out of the city. There is it's on a coast, so you've got plenty of trade routes going there. So during the conquests, a Manelian general, that's what I've given them finally a name, Manelians. A Manelian general attacked the northern gates of Dele at night using one of those plane striders that I talked about in a past video. Just showed up, and by sunrise, half the city was in flames, and all the ruling guild leaders were just butchered in their sleep. And it was one of the most horrific things that Theatrum had ever seen. It was when the general was recalled, the city of Dele was left with a couple Manelian leaders to help rebuild in order to kind of reinstate order within the city. This was more so as an attempt on Sondomanel still trying to play the good guys, but still holding on to that giant port city.
Mm-hmm.
After the conquests were ceased, a lot of the people of Dele kind of expected the Manelians to scoot on away, go back to where you came from, and they didn't. They stayed to keep a hold on that as their primary southern trade port. There were a lot of attempts at co-governing the city, so
those always go
that
well.
always goes really well. There's a story. There were a lot of the times when there were a lot of people in Dele that would be charged double or triple taxes just because of where they were in the city, and they'd be like, well, this is Sundamanel charging you. Well, no, this is Fuglen's charging you. This is Halar charging you. So it was, a lot of people were getting messed up.
Oh, the tax brackets must be insane.
It was rough. But now they have split it up into 3 distinct sections. So there's a story that goes with this that in a fit of rage, one of the, I haven't decided what kind, but a spellcaster of some sort used all of his energy. He was furious at these taxes that were being put upon him. Used the oceans that were on the coast to split the city into 3 pieces. So you have the side of Fuglen, Sundamanel, Halar, and then right in the center, there's almost like a mini island, and that is where, that's like a free trade area that they've kind of made their own. It's run by guilds. So that's more or less that, like, this is the true government of Dele. Everywhere else around here is just from their countries. But yeah, I was able to go into a bit of the architecture, as far as the layout. Looking at Dele, it's kind of like looking at a headache. There will be giant towers out of nowhere in a city of just where only like gnomes and halflings are, so it just makes no sense. Doors will be like kind of awkward as they tried to like accommodate for different sizes.
Oh my god.
As the city grew way too quickly, roads and streets will just abruptly end. Like the buildings will have, you know, it's just, I just wrote in here, it is a mess and a headache to look at. It is just, there makes no sense.
There's no beauty in Dele. It's just,
I think you can.
You can find the beauty in it.
Right. The people of Dele will look at it and be like, "This is the most beautiful city I've ever seen. Look at the culture," and it's just like.
But somebody from Rodnef will come through and be like,
"Oh my
what
God,
happened here?
Why?" You know, and it's not very pretty, but it is where a lot of it's a huge city. Like I said, lots of commerce, lots of trade, divided up by a couple guilds and then the 3 countries.
So it's a city in 4 parts.
Technically, yeah, now.
Wow.
Yeah. Which still
step aside, New York.
Right, which still causes a lot of issues, but yeah, I think that was kind of, it came from this crazy destruction and Sundamanel kind of just inserting itself into this city.
Hi, we're here now.
We're here now, and this is how it's going to be. And then for years and years, it caused so many issues, especially with the whole, like, now you're being taxed by 3 different nations.
3 different nations, yeah.
Right, like, ugh, it was awful. But they kind of have it figured out now.
Sort of,
kind of.
What part of writing this was your gave you absolute joy?
I really liked adding in, connecting in different pieces that I've already used the World Anvil prompts for to create this. So, you have the Conquest of Truth I keep talking about. You've got that Manelian force that came in that was used by the Planewalkers. That Manelian general that actually initiated the attack on Dele is one of the main guys that said, you know what, I'm going north, you know, and went up to Mataro-Manel.
Mataro-Manel.
I think. We'll get there. Anyway. But I really liked adding in those details. And also, this is a city that I've had since very early on when creating Theatrum. I knew I wanted a city that was just kind of a mess, but a lovely, just a nice mess.
A hot mess, if you will.
Mess. Yeah, I wanted a hot mess city. And I finally got to kind of give it a bit more history. I want to go back in and go more into like the industry, the infrastructure, probably go more into details as far as architecture and the different districts and the guilds that run those areas. but I think I got a good start with the history, so...
Absolutely. Anything else you wanted to add on yours? Because I really like that idea.
Yeah, I like it too, but...
I already have like a map in mind where just like these 3 pseudo-cities, and then an island city sitting in the center, and there are just bridges crossing.
Yes,
like,
actually
everywhere.
thinking about that, I was going to mention that. That's part of the infrastructure that I had, is that there are large arching bridges that connect all the sides, but they're so large that, like, people will set up, it's almost like mini farmers markets every single day on these bridges.
I imagine that there's tolls to get in
to
each side.
Oh,
of
yeah.
Oh, God.
It's a mess. It's a mess.
I don't want to go, but I do.
Yes.
But I don't.
It'd be a headache to walk through.
And
God forbid you don't have a guide and you get lost, and it would be fun. But
yikes.
But yeah, that's what I came up with as far as Dele. Now we've finished up with my hot mess city. Let's move on to probably something a little bit more thought out.
I think yours is very well thought out. Don't ever misquote me on that one. So, I have brought up this character's name a number of times, but now I am talking specifically about the city that he is the most well known for. I wrote about the city Arkhoshia. Now, I brought up Arkhoshia in a previous video talking about a religious figure whose influence has changed the status quo. I remember I bamboozled myself there in that video. I did not do that here. The city Arkhoshia is a haven city. It is the shining city on a hill, but it's in a valley, for Dragonborn. In Ellecrid, Dragonborn are essentially the runts of dragon litters. When dragons have babies, they can have like your normal dragons, or they can have a Dragonborn. Just kind of, it kind of feeds into the previous video you talked about, kind of a reproductive abnormality.
Yeah.
Just rampant in dragonkind. But the city Arkhoshia was founded by Arkhoshia and his saints, his disciples, and his exodus, the people that followed him. Essentially what Arkhoshia stood for and what he campaigned for during his life was the emancipation of Dragonborn, because when you are a Dragonborn born into a dragon family, you are the slave of the family. It doesn't matter if your father is the king of a clan, you are a slave because you were a Dragonborn. And that's just kind of how it worked in Draconic society for the longest time before Arkhoshia started making moves. So essentially what I talk about here is that it is on the far western, in the far western province of Draconia, of the country run by the dragons. Great naming, I know. It is a city, what I really enjoyed about it, besides the fact that it is a sprawling city, 5 miles wide in terms of diameter, which is fairly large for a fantasy city. They built the walls first.
Makes sense, though.
They built the walls first and decided that, and despite the fact that it was a lot of ground to cover and to populate and to build on, it was something that they intended to make the most of, because they wanted it to be a place where Dragonborn and dragonkind of all kind could come and be present and accepted and
free.
Equal. Yes, and free. Big one there. Free. What I really enjoyed first and foremost was the demographics. I talked about how 73 to 75% of the population is just straight Dragonborn. About another 16% of the population are half dragons. Leaving a final 7%? Yeah, 7% are kobolds of varying degrees and clans. Traditionally, in what I understand of kobolds, at least in the Forgotten Realms, that kobolds are just kobolds.
Yeah.
But to me, I think that's lacking in a way. Not lame, but lacking. So in my head, the way that Dragonborn, half-dragons, and kobolds work is that whatever clan that they are descended of, they have those attributes. So you've got your red kobolds, your silver kobolds, your gold kobolds, your black kobolds. Like, those are things. But so 7% of the population are kobolds, and the remaining 2 to 1% is other races.
anything else.
Anything else that populates the city. And generally, those people, if you were a merchant, if you were a tradesman, you were allowed within the city and you were allowed residence within reason, but generally the non-draconic races that dwell in the city can trace their ancestral line back in some way, shape, or form to a dragon. It's very much...
This is our area.
We're very dragon-centric here.
This is our thing.
Also, it's built on a river, so obviously they have a great deal of trade and commerce there. The history, which is the most important bit here, because I wrote about the demographic and then I got swallowed up in the history. We had to write about a city that was brought to ruin and then has come back. So, when Arkhoshia was first built, they were all the things about, they built the walls first, 5 miles in diameter, built on the river, very dragon-centric. Where the problem came in is that as a means and a hope to kind of push out the tyrannical dragons that lived in the province surrounding Arkhoshia, they went a little bit militaristic in that respect. They were already militaristic because because a number of them had to literally fight for their freedom.
Right.
But they went a little bit more in terms of just pushing people out to secure their holdings, secure their province. Where the problem came up is actually in a country on a different continent called Ompari. I've talked about Ompari with the Devil Raja. The Devil Raja saw and had an issue with Dragonborn basically being recognized, Dragonborn being recognized by the Council of Worms, by the ruling body of dragons, by the majority of dragons, that they were their own, they had their own autonomy. And
why'd they have issue with that?
They had issue with that because the Rakshasa and the Devil Raja are devils and have always had issues with dragons. And now the dragons have this potential ally in Arkhoshia and the freed slaves of Arkhoshia, and because of Arkhoshia's influence as being the son of Bahamut and the savior of dragonkind, they didn't want his influence of his freedom fight, of his war for freedom, which is called the Kinboon Crusade, they didn't want that bleeding into their own slave caste.
Mind your own business, okay.
So what they did, and it wouldn't have been a problem if, Arkhoshia's influence hadn't influenced 2 other rebellions prior to their making their move. The Shadar Kai of the Nocturna Coast rebelled. The stout folk of Vandebal and Osland vied for annexation or seceding from the Union, secession from Miraidane. All of these things were being influenced by Arkhoshia's Kinboon Crusades, that they didn't want that happening in Ompari. So what they did is that they brought together their warrior caste, and they brought together all of the slaves and basically fed them lies and propaganda to say, we need to go kill these people, we need to go eradicate these people and put them down. By the way, anyone who brings us the heads of Arkhosian dignitaries and noblemen and powerful figures will be elevated out of the slave caste. And so what they did was they waited. In Ellecrid there is this event that keeps happening every so often, after a few thousand years, called a shattering, and so they waited for the proper time to strike, and after the 3rd shattering, when Arkhoshia gave his life to prevent the shattering from destroying the world, according to some lore and some legends, that's when they made their move. After Arkhoshia was gone and the city was we're still
already on edge.
Already on edge. You're mourning the loss of their founder and their leader, and that's when they launched their attack. And so the slaves of Ompari, a majority tiefling, but you've also got your shifter, your tabaxi, your humans, slaughtered the people of Arkhoshia and razed the city to the ground. It is actually, I found it interesting that you brought this up in yours in a very similar way. The sacking of Arkhoshia is historically the most gruesome and bloody event to ever occur in the world. A lot of people consider it a war crime, what they did to Arkhoshia. the city Arkhoshia. But after that, they left the city in ruin. All the people that managed to escape from Arkhoshia were scattered to the winds, some of them going south to find new homes in the free cities or elsewhere. Others of them kind of, unfortunately, some of the Dragonborn and some of the kobolds went back east and became subservient to their former dragon overlords again because they had nowhere else to go. But there's a happy ending. The happy ending is, in here it is rumor. I talk about it as if it were rumor. There are rumors abound that the city Arkhoshia is being rebuilt. And that all Dragonborn, all Dragonkin who draw their ancestry back to Arkhoshia or seek emancipation and seek asylum are welcome within the city. And there are rumors that abound that Arkhoshia himself has returned. And with the coming of Arkhoshia and his city being rebuilt, reigns in a new dawn for dragonkind.
I mean, I've been to Arkhoshia in the modern times, so I kind of know what's going up on there.
In-game.
But I do remember walking to Arkhoshia, and there was a change, and there was a new life being brought there, and that was a really cool moment in-game. But in general, yeah, that's good. Good stuff. Good stuff.
Oh, also, there's like a percentage dedicated in the demographics. I just saw this. There are dragons that live in Arkhoshia. Like full-blooded dragons, not Dragonborn or half-dragon.
Right.
And that's just, again, that's a precedent that Arkhoshia wanted to set. Is like, it's no matter where we have been, it's what we are doing now. And that's kind of the idea of this city.
Yeah. Other than being just, in general, super excited to write about the city, was there any moment that you were just like, anything new that you added that you didn't originally have already in your mind, or?
Definitely the kobolds, because initially, when people started talking to me about kobolds in the Forgotten Realms, my mind immediately went to Spiderwick Chronicles, and those are very different kobolds. So I really like the idea. I've gotten to know, or understood and been introduced to a lot more of the kobold culture, and I like the idea of kobolds and like throwing them in various places. One of my favorites is we had a player who plays a kobold, and he understands the whole like they are essentially slaves and like little dragon rats, and the first time that he saw a kobold in a seat of power was like massive for him.
Mind-blowing.
He was like, what? And I really dug that, and I really like that part there. Also, I had known that the Arkhoshia, I had drawn some inspirations from the Forgotten Realms itself, with the inclusion of the tieflings, but having through this process developed the Devil Raja and their influence and developed a little bit more of the timeline. I really liked being able to look at, okay, so what was the justification for them sacking Arkhoshia? Oh, these two other really successful and varying degrees of bloody uprisings.
Right.
So that makes a whole lot of sense to me, and I love being able to connect those dots. So that was something that I really enjoyed.
Arkhoshia is a good story. I always love that stuff. But unless there was anything else you were super excited to share.
Not really. That's all I got.
Yeah, that's all I got.
Thank you so much for joining us today. Let us know in the comments below something you enjoyed about today's video, or if you have an idea that you're willing to share.
If you enjoyed today's video, please make sure to hit all those buttons that everyone else bugs you about. We'd love for you to join our lunch table.
And go check out World Anvil if you're interested.
You guys have been great. I'm Kat.
I'm Arden13. I'm still waiting on that ramen.
We'll see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.